Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into separation in Ontario, specifically that really crucial piece, the separation agreement.
Yeah, it's something a lot of people face, and it can feel, well, pretty overwhelming.
Totally. So, our goal here is really to pull out the key stuff, make it clearer, less intimidating for you.
Exactly. We've looked at an article from GTA Divorce. It compares using a lawyer versus, using a template for these agreements in Ontario.
Right.
So our mission, if you like, is to figure out what makes an agreement solid legally, the pros and cons of each approach, and maybe flag some key things to watch out for. Avoid those future headaches.
Okay, great. Let's dive right in then. In simple terms, what is a separation agreement here in Ontario?
Well, basically, it's a legally binding contract
Yeah.
written down between the two separating partners.
A contract. Okay.
Think of it like the rule book for how you're going to sort things out. The article highlights it covers the big areas.
Yeah.
Dividing property, debts, how you'll handle the kids, so custody, access, that sort of thing. And also support payments, so child support, maybe spousal support.
So it's really about getting all those major decisions down on paper officially so everyone's clear.
That's the core idea, clarity. The article stresses how vital that is. Without it, things are just, well, open to argument later.
Which nobody wants.
Exactly. Can lead to more conflict, even court battles down the road.
Makes sense. Now, the article also kind of walks through a step-by-step for putting one together. Let's unpack that. Step one is gathering information.
Yes, and this is foundational. You need to be really meticulous here. Gather details on, like, everything you own.
Houses, bank accounts.
Investments, cars, pensions, yeah.
Right.
All assets.
Yeah.
But also everything you owe. Mortgages, loans, credit card debt.
Okay.
Income details for both of you are absolutely essential, especially for calculating any support. And, naturally, if there are kids, all their info for the parenting plan.
So thoroughness now prevents problems later.
Pretty much. The article really emphasizes that. Fewer surprises that way.
Okay, step two then. Using a template as a starting point, this is where people might think, I can save some money here.
Right.
What's the take on templates?
Well, the article suggests they can offer an initial structure, like a framework.
Right.
They often have standard clauses for, support, custody, property division. But, and this is a really big but, you absolutely have to ensure that template aligns with Ontario's Family Law Act.
Because laws change, or it might just be too generic.
Exactly. A random template online might be outdated or just not fit your specific situation at all. It's a risk.
Yeah, legal stuff is rarely one size fits all. Okay, step three. Including key clauses. What specifics are we talking about here?
So beyond those main categories, these clauses need real detail to avoid ambiguity,
Like?
Okay, so for finances, instead of just saying split the bank accounts, you'd list which accounts, how they'll be divided, who closes what. For parenting, you need specifics on decision-making, the exact schedule, holidays, travel.
Really granular detail.
Yes. And the article also points to adding a dispute resolution clause. So how you'll try to sort out disagreements before running to court. Maybe mediation first.
That sounds practical. Okay, step four is a big one. Review for legal compliance. The article really pushes for getting a lawyer involved here, even with a template. Why is that so critical?
Well, Ontario law has specific requirements for an agreement to be seen as fair and, importantly, transparent. A lawyer brings that objective eye.
Okay.
They can check if it meets the legal standards, spot potential issues you wouldn't see, explain your rights, and tell you honestly if it protects your interests. The article is very clear. Legal review is strongly recommended for enforceability.
It's like a safety net, you said.
Exactly, a crucial one.
And the final step, number five, sign and notarize. What does notarizing actually add?
So both parties signing is the main thing, obviously, but notarization adds an extra layer of legal weight. A notary public confirms your identity and witnesses you signing it freely. It makes it much tougher for someone to argue later they were forced or didn't understand. It's like a formal stamp of authenticity.
Got it. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The article talks about free separation agreement resources in Ontario. Lots of people probably start there, right?
For sure. The cost of separating is a huge factor. The article actually cites a 2023 Legal Aid Ontario survey. Found that 62% of couples initially look at free or low-cost templates. So yeah, they're popular.
And the benefits are obvious, I guess. Cost.
Yeah, cost-effective, accessible online. For very, very simple situations, maybe no kids, not much property, they might offer a basic structure to start from.
But the limitations, I'm sensing they're significant.
They really are. The article is quite clear on this. Free templates often just don't cover complex stuff, like business ownership, pensions, big investment portfolio.
Things that aren't straightforward?
Exactly. And the biggest risk, really, is unenforceability without legal review. The article mentions full financial disclosure. That's a mandatory thing under Ontario law. A basic template might not guide you properly on how thorough that needs to be.
And if you miss something?
Big trouble later. Could invalidate parts of the agreement or all of it. The appeal of free is strong, but if your situation has any complexity at all, think of those free templates as maybe a starting point for discussion, but not the final product.
So it could seem cheap up front, but cost way more down the line if it's challenged or doesn't hold up.
That's the potential trap, yes. They can help you understand the basics, maybe, but they're rarely a substitute for tailored advice.
Right. Let's talk dollars then. The article tackles the separation agreement lawyer Ontario cost. What's the ballpark, and when is that cost really justified?
Okay, so the article mentions the 2024 Law Society of Ontario report. It suggests fees for drafting or reviewing typically range from, say, $1,500 to $5,000.
That's quite a range.
It is, and it really hints on complexity. A simple, amicable agreement, lower end. But if you've got significant assets, big fights over kids, or maybe murky finances, it's going to cost more because there's more work involved.
So when does the article say, yeah, you really should get a lawyer for this?
It gives pretty clear pointers. Definitely if there are high-value assets involved, or if custody is really contentious and you just can't agree, or if one person's financial picture isn't clear, maybe self-employed income, things like that.
Situations where the stakes are high, basically.
Exactly. A lawyer ensures fairness, legal soundness, and protects your rights in those trickier spots.
The article also floated a kind of middle ground idea, didn't it? Balancing DIY and legal help.
Yes, a hybrid approach.
Yeah.
If budget's tight, the suggestion is maybe use a proper Ontario-specific template to draft something yourself first. Get your thoughts organized.
Okay.
And then pay a lawyer just to review it. The article estimates that review might be in the $500 to $1,000 range.
Still money, but less than the full drafting fee.
Right. And the argument is that it's a smart investment. It could save you from massive legal bills later if the agreement gets challenged. The article even threw out a figure like court challenges over bad agreements costing $10,000 or more.
Ouch! Okay, so paying for that review starts to look like pretty good value then.
It's like insurance, really. Paying a bit now to potentially avoid a huge cost and headache later. Finding that balance between affordability and legal security.
Makes sense. The article also hit on some common questions. Let's run through those quickly. First off, is this thing actually legally binding?
Yes, the article confirms it is if key conditions are met. Both sides sign voluntarily, full and honest financial disclosure from both, and crucially, both had the chance to get independent legal advice.
Opportunity for advice, okay.
Right. And Ontario courts generally uphold agreements made under those conditions.
What about changing it later? Life happens, right?
Yep, it can be changed. The article says you can do it if you both agree to the changes, put it in writing. If you can't agree, one person can ask the court to modify it, but usually only if there's been a really significant change in circumstances.
Like losing a job or maybe remarrying.
Exactly, things like that.
Big one here. Do you absolutely need a lawyer to make it official? Mandatory.
Legally speaking, no, the article says it's not mandatory, but it strongly emphasizes that getting legal advice massively cuts down the risks. Risks of future fights, risks of it being unfair or legally flawed.
And there was a statistic mentioned.
Yeah, a striking one.
Yeah.
A 2023 Ontario Bar Association study found 78%, nearly 4 out of 5 contested agreements involved at least one person who didn't have their own lawyer.
Wow. That really tells the story.
It certainly highlights the value of that independent advice.
Okay, last question from the article. What if you just cannot agree? You're at loggerheads.
Well, the article mentions options before court. Mediation is one. A neutral person helps you talk and try to find common ground. Arbitration is another, where a neutral third party, the arbitrator, actually listens to both sides and then makes a binding decision for you.
So like a private judge almost.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
If those don't work, court is always the last resort. But the article stresses it's usually way more expensive, takes much longer, and you have less control over the outcome compared to negotiation or mediation.
Right. Okay, so wrapping this up, the key takeaway seems to be that separation agreements in Ontario are absolutely vital. Get it in writing.
Definitely. For clarity, for certainty.
And while templates might look tempting, especially the free ones, they have real limits, particularly things are even a little bit complicated.
Big limitations, yeah. And potential risks.
And getting legal advice, even if it's just paying for a review of a draft you started, offers really important protection, saves trouble down the road.
Absolutely. It's about understanding your rights and making sure the agreement is fair and enforceable. Knowing these things really empowers you as you navigate this process.
Definitely feels less daunting when you break it down like that.
Yeah.
So here's something for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. Think about your own situation. What are the most complex parts? Where do you anticipate potential disagreements? And how does that reality influence whether just using a template feels sufficient or if getting some legal eyes on it seems wise?
Yeah, and maybe also think, what steps can you take now? Like getting all your financial documents organized, trying to keep communication lines open, whatever path you choose, those proactive steps can make a big difference.
Good point. And remember, the original article we discussed also listed some helpful resources, things like the Ontario government website pages on separation, family law services info, the federal justice site, and even mentioned looking into free initial consultations with lawyers. Worth checking out if you need more info.